from around the world?
Pastor Paul, God bless you this evening.
God bless you, Mike. How you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing great. Hope everybody is warm.
Well, if they stay inside, they are. Okay.
Pretty cool.
If they have electricity and if they don't get knocked out because of these high winds. I mean, wow. Are you in a warm place, Mike?
Yes, unfortunately I am. I say that because I kind of prefer colder temperatures, but yeah.
Wait, you prefer colder than this?
I do. When I went through cold weather training, my core temperature went up and never came down again.
Oh man! But did you get sent to Yakima, or was you up in the mountains of California, or where did you have to go for?
Well, we were with training 10th Mountain Division, and of course, then we went way up there into the nether regions. It was minus 64 degrees where we were, and once your body acclimates to cold temps, your core temperature goes up. Well, it's very difficult for it to come down for me, as it turns out.
So you're kind of hot-blooded now, so you need cooler. Yeah, okay. All right, Mike. Now, last Thursday, wait a minute. Could you have Paul turn the phone upside down? I did. Tell him I did. Facing it. Is it? Can everybody hear Mike all right? Please turn up my volume.
Hopefully they can.
The webcam.
Yeah, he is. I've got it facing the webcam. Hang on, everybody. Let's just. Israel, you say that I turned the phone upside down toward the webcam, just like you said. Okay, Mike. Let's see.
Were they pointing a speaker towards the webcam?
Yeah. Off my phone because I'm on the road tonight, and so.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
So I think everybody can hear you. I've got it cranked wide open. I don't know if I can turn it. I can't turn it.
I'm all the way up too.
I could look and see if Israel. Can you go to you're broadcasting in Israel? So look where it says the volume on the settings.
Pastor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I'll go into the settings, but it's for me. That's on my end, not yours.
Okay, if you go to
you'll have to go into your settings.
Okay, I'll go to my settings right now. If I go to my settings.
So what you need to do is turn your mic up to maximum, but then you need to talk softly because your natural voice is a lot louder than the phone.
Over here. Do you want me to turn that off?
I'm sorry?
I got echo cancellation on. Do you want me to turn that off?
Yeah, turn that off and then turn yourself up really loud, and then you talk softly.
What about now?
Wait 1 second. All right, I'm turned it up for now. Let's see how this is. I'll talk softly and I'll let Mike carry the big stick. Go ahead, Mike. Let's see what happens.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Good to go?
Israel, is that better?
That okay?
Not much, but just got to roll with it maybe.
You sure that microphone's up there, Israel, by that? Because sometimes I put it down at the corner of this. Try this, Mike.
Try that.
Testing 1, 2. How's it sound? I put the mic directly in front of my face too, so I might be a bit louder. I can't put it any closer. It'll be in my mouth, and I don't believe I can talk like that.
I don't think. Yeah, you're doing the best you can, Mike. Israel, is that better?
Yeah, I'm echoing when I talk now. That's about as good as we're gonna get.
Okay, I'll talk softer, and Mike will carry the big stick. Okay. All right, go ahead, Mike. Last week we talked about. You talked about Ukraine being the staging ground. Does it really look like you were dead on the money here with the staging, aren't you?
Well, hopefully everybody can see it now. What's actually starting to take shape. You know, we've gone through months of propaganda, months of back and forward. But as everybody can see right now, certainly if they heard Zelensky speak with the president, they would have seen the dynamic that was taking place and what's actually happening. It's almost like the Ukraine is an area of forward base, if you would. And the only way, see, we're in a bad position because the only way now to stop what's happening is to pummel Russia. That's the only way. Here's a problem. Since the staging area is now set in stone. It really is. In fact, deployments have begun on both sides of the fence. And since it's already underway, somebody's going to have to preempt. Somebody will have to preempt. Putin cannot afford for NATO to set up strategically. He cannot afford for NATO to set up all the way. He can't do that. And that's going to cause a problem. So he was talking about, somebody asked him a question about a nuclear strike. Would he preempt a nuclear strike? He said, if we wouldn't preempt a nuclear strike, that means we would not use nuclear weapons. And he said, so that's not us. We will preempt. He said, because anybody who won't preempt a strike is not going to use nuclear weapons. And he said nuclear weapons are on the table for them. It is part of their strategy. Part of it. The same thing the USA is sending. We've already sent units in the Ukraine, right? So we have special units in the Ukraine. Speaking of equipment, I know they gave the announcement, but it's there. If those systems get in position, that's going to cancel out Putin. That's going to make it very difficult for Putin to achieve his goals with Ukraine, right? But now it's hopefully people can see it's no longer a war with Ukraine. It's not what it is. It's a war between Russia and, let's go ahead and say communism and democracy is what this is a war against. This is between the West and its allies and Russia and its allies. Here's the unfortunate part, a very dangerous part. Everything is being set up right now. Deployments are starting. Putin is about to deploy yet another deadly weapon in the seas. He's already armed to the teeth a very special vessel. It is being deployed right now as we speak. Another one will be deployed in a couple of days. NATO cannot afford for him to launch another one. They tried to interrupt that. It's not working. We're talking about a pretty large nuclear payload. I'm going to call it nuclear, but I'm telling you right now it's not nuclear. It's something else. I know that nuclear weapons, that's more propaganda. They are supposed to be the worst type weapon out there. It is not. A nuclear weapon in these days is more like it's very deadly, right? But there are other weapons out there that can do far more than a nuclear weapon ever could. But they are being deployed. The USA has to get its defense net completed. The Ukraine is part of that. So the Ukraine actually is the front door to NATO. Germany is target number one. The UK is target number two. So you have these countries out there. He will have to hit them hard, right? If he's going to win his battle with Ukraine, he's going to have to hit NATO hard. If he hits NATO hard, he's going to have to take out certain strategic sites in the USA. And here's the problem. All this is being set up. We have a government that is about to change. Now, nobody get upset because this is not about left or right now. I'm telling you what's going to happen. We're going to find ourselves in a very precarious position, a very dangerous position. And at that same time, friction is going to build up in the White House. When this happens, it's going to stagnate tactical planning. Commanders are going to be angry. You're going to hear commanders call out and say, hey, we don't need the politics right now. We don't need politics. But because of arrogance and because of strong views, you're going to see certain strategies of ours stagnated. This is going to cause holes to be in our defense net. I have a strong feeling America will be hit. America will be hit this time. I think that because I'm telling you right now, if they don't set up, things are being held back by politics right now. They're being held back. Very important strategic defense initiatives are being held back because of politics. It's only going to get worse. You have people right now who they're standing against any support with Ukraine, any. And you're going to soon see the public's opinion shift of the Ukraine, and then it will happen. Everybody will visibly see the unthinkable happen on their televisions. That's going to sway the opinion, but by that time, it's going to be too late. We're going to have a hole in our net, and it's going to cost us big time. It's going to cost us. This time, everybody will see the results of arrogancy. See, there always comes a time when everything has to be set aside and people have to remember humanity. They have to remember the initial causes. this initial war between communism and democracy, how it began, what happened, and why it needs to be defended, or no one will have the freedoms to even argue, right?
Yeah.
Nuclear weapons are real. China has nuclear weapons. Iran has nuclear weapons. They're going to let that out of the bag. I know the USA, we talked at the beginning of the year about certain defense strategies that Israel and the USA had. They have they were working on a joint mission for laser defense. That was part of the air defense system. Lasers, right? Just to let you know, that's incomplete. That's not complete yet. It's not field tested either. And it missed a couple targets. So they have to work on coordination of part of that defense net. We have some severe issues. We have to be a little more astute than what we are, because, if the whole populace of the world hangs in the balance, there's too many nuclear weapons deployed right now, accidents are going to take place. They will take place. Somebody's not going to get that communication. Some computer system is not going to get the kill command. And all of a sudden, we're going to see a launch. We could see an airburst or something like that. But this is where the mistakes will take place. Now, is this the end of the world? No. We have to remember, we've gone through world wars before. Those were not the end of the world. It may seem like the end of the world, but it wasn't. And we have to be reminded of this, because a lot of people, they'll see this happening, all of a sudden they get nervous and scared. Not one Christian, not one believer should ever be scared about anything that's permitted to happen on the face of the earth. In fact, they should stand in the confines of faith, which is to say, stand up with what the Lord gave them and start to walk forward. Never go backward, just walk forward, no matter what comes, because anybody here right now, God has equipped them to be here. Nobody can be alive who's a Christian who is not equipped to handle anything that's going to be in their lifetime, right? So
yeah.
Every Christian out there is equipped to walk through everything that's presented to them. They need not worry about, now, this is just for believers, the true believers. They don't have to worry about anything coming against them directly that's going to overtake them. That's impossible because of Christ. If that were the case, they would have been overtaken a long time ago. But they can't be overtaken. So, because this experience for us is actually is a teaching. We're royalty in training. So we have to know everything by way of truth, right? We have to live through it to make our decisions. But the rest of the world, Pastor Paul, they're going to see one of the most terrible times they ever had, because nuclear weapons are one thing. Chemical biological weapons by North Korea, that's a very real ordeal. And do you not know, it's going to be talk and whispers about North Korea mounting chemical biological weapons on warheads.
Let's talk about that, Mike, for a minute, because I don't want to be too loud. I'm trying to balance the sound here. Kim Jong-un's sister, every now and then, I think he sends her out there to stir the pot. And she began to say, hey, look, we're about ready we're just going to start firing off intercontinental ballistic missiles that we can reach America. We certainly can hit South Korea. And so she's very upset. The United States, we flew B-52 bombers that are nuclear capable. We flew F-15s and F-22s, or I should say F-22s and F-35s, really, all over South Korea. We're in a joint drill we're doing right now, which is basically a show of force. So the Koreans, the North Koreans, seem to be very, very, very agitated. At the same time, China is agitating Taiwan, and Iran just said today, because of Zelensky's meeting with President Biden at the White House, and that he spoke before our U.S. Congress, that Iran threatened Ukraine today, which you've always said that Russia and Ukraine, they're one and the same. So do you feel that North Korea, are they doing this on their own, or are they working in conjunction with China?
North Korea works in tandem with Russia. It is right now, it's China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and you have eight different factions in the Middle East that are loyal to this alliance, this unholy alliance over there. So you have all these people working in tandem. They are doing things behind closed doors. They're trading weaponry, right? They're trading information, building techniques, right? They trade that also. So they're all sharing in building up an industrial complex of their own. They most certainly will act in tandem to do what they. And this girl in North Korea, she has the same heart as her grandfather, the exact same heart.
Wow.
She will do she's not one who will give a threat and will not do it. Not like Kim Jong-un, right? Not like all the rest of the Kims that were in succession, but one of her grandfathers. She'll do everything she said she would do. She has no problem killing. She's been responsible for overseeing torture, a lot of people, overseeing the killings of a lot of people. She has put people to death and went to go to lunch, right? No conscience whatsoever. She is extremely dangerous. And if something happens to the short, fat guy, that's when the world is in trouble. In fact, there's already conversation that if that ever takes place, they're going to have to take her out because there's no way she can be left alive without her brother, kind of interfering. He runs interference because he's somewhat like a populist. He likes people to look at him. He likes that attention. Well, that's not so for the other one. She didn't care about attention. She's been in the background doing all that strategic work. She makes things happen. And so here we are. She's right there in the seat of power, right?
Yeah.
She will most certainly, if she gets irritated enough without a conscience, she will do what is necessary to exact whatever she needs to exact to whatever enemy. So if that includes a launch towards the USA, it'll happen. If that includes bombardment of biological and chemical weapons towards South Korea, that will take place. If that includes coordinated assault, I believe it's going to be a coordinated assault against the USA. Need I remind everybody that, and I'll say it again, there's no way anybody can trample Jerusalem underfoot unless the USA is out of the game. So all of us ought to sober up and start thinking about that, because nobody can go into Israel and occupy Israel for 42 months.
No.
The USA is sitting in a seat of power. We are essentially.
So when you say a coordinated, when you say a coordinated assault, I mean, are you talking China, Iran, Russia, Korea?
Yes, all of them together.
Yeah.
The technology they have a combined CNC, command and control, right? They have handoff capability, which means suppose Russia gives China or China gives Russia command and control of their arsenal. That means Russia can direct the weaponry of China anywhere in the world. That means they can launch missiles from Russia, but they'll lead from China going to whatever target is entered by Russian CNC or command and control. Same thing goes for Iran. Iran has the development of several new weapons that are deadly. Any one of those nations can actually have command and control of each other. We live in a world right now where the internet governs quite a bit, or internet-based technology governs quite a bit. The borders are taken away. It does not matter if a country is separated by 2,000 miles anymore, right?
Right.
Because by way of computers, all this tactical equipment can be coordinated. And we're talking about the navies. We're talking about the air forces, right? They can do a CNC launch of all armaments from air, sea, land, all at the same time from all those countries through one master system. It is incredible. We have that same capability, but they can also do it. And a lot of people don't think of that. That means one person can command the armaments of anything flying in the air in the communist forces, right? Putin can do that. If they give him CNC, command and control, he can do that. He can absolutely do that.
Is Russia's morale among its soldiers as bad as the media's letting us know?
No, it isn't. There's a lot of propaganda again.
Right.
You're always going to have disgruntled people. You also have paid actors who are very bold in Russia. Russia always has activists who are against communism, it seems, or Russia the way it is. And so what they do is they publicize some of the people who have these demonstrations. It's kind of like back in the 80s when they were not showing certain elements of Russia that were true. because they wanted people to believe in a specific way so they could accomplish, something at the end. Well, same thing is happening now. They're only going to show imagery that will cause sympathy towards Ukraine. Right? That's the Western ideology. That's what they're going to support. They're not going to show the contrary. They're going to paint Putin as some sort of a devil. That's what they're going to do. They're going to continue to do this. In my opinion, they're just leaders who are doing things for their countries. No leader in the world is the same. Not one. Right? Not one. They're going to do what's necessary to lead that country. By the way, there are principalities sitting in every single country that will influence those people. But these people, if we keep in mind as Christians, are also under the guise of those three unclean spirits to achieve the ultimate means found in the book of Revelation. As another, so they're under the influence of something God is allowing that will bring about all prophecy in the end. So they're not going to make, saint decisions, so to speak. They're going to continue to operate under these influences. Right? Any seat of power is going to carry one of those principalities' influence.
So you feel this? So we talk about the propaganda because I agree. I think that the propaganda is overboard with trying to say that the Russians are all. I mean, the Russian people typically are very loyal nationalists for their nation, and
they're also good people.
They are good people.
Good people in Russia.
You're right. They're very good, and you can't blame them for wanting to stand behind their leader and stand behind their troops, and
right.
And so some of this warmongering, and I hate to say this, but it feels like out of the West, maybe our media, maybe CNN wants a war. It's almost like they want one. I don't know if they know what they want, or do they even know what they're going to get if they keep. Am I wrong by reading that into that?
No, because they have normally with any type of conflict, right? The USA will take a position. That will be the accepted position. It's a known fact that back in the 40s, the news media was, well, let's just say it was hired. Let's just say money dictates what the stories are going to be. They need ratings, right? The government's the only entity that can supplement failed ratings. And so the government will always have individuals in there to put a gag order on stories they don't want, this, that, and the other, right? These guys are getting paid. So when somebody's getting paid a lot of money to tell a story, are they doing it from the heart? No, they're doing it to get paid, right?
Right.
So you can influence that, and we have to remember that. We've been looking at news for so long, they keep saying the same thing. People start to believe it. But if you take note, the only ones that will speak in a neutral field are two of the news agencies in the UK. That's it. The rest of them understand that if you start talking for Putin in the USA, your ratings are going to drop.
Right.
You talk about the Ukraine in the USA, your ratings are going to go up. All sorts of good stuff happens. And that's what rules America. They start talking about those things that will continue the dollars and the agreement. They want people to agree with things to roll in. And they have a habit of manipulating that for the people. So they just give people the drama stew, and people eat the drama stew. And if they like it, they'll pay for it. If they don't, they won't. In other countries, some other countries are not concerned about that. They understand what's going on. But I wish that everybody would watch the interview that took place yesterday so they could understand the dynamic of what's really taking place. They need to hear Joe Biden and Zelensky interact and speak, because you're going to find that somebody is under the control of the other. That's what you'll see. Everybody can clearly see this. They need to see it. It's almost like you have a subordinate, right?
Yep.
Who is speaking, but then you have you have somebody very high up who's actually on the totem pole, who's actually pretty high up. They may not speak well or anything, but they're pretty high up, and they will control and navigate that whole conversation. If people would see that, they would understand what's happening in the Ukraine. I'm going to let everybody know too, the people of Russia and the people of the Ukraine are more victims than anything else.
Amen.
They're victims of two groups that are willing to use the people to establish their end goals.
And to that point,
this whole thing is full of darkness.
It is. I mean, okay, I watched that interview. I did. I watched it live when it happened between Zelensky and Biden. And yes, you could feel that this was, especially Biden, as if he was acting. He was almost reading from the script of what he had to say. it was as if it wasn't him. He was a total different personality in that conversation. And Zelensky also. They both were on the stage being, but groups higher than both of them was manipulating the conversation.
Zelensky follows.
Yeah.
A lot, right?
Yes, he
I
follows.
want you to take note of something with Joe Biden. If something starts going off script too much, Joe has the authority to pull people back.
Yep.
But Joe has a special authority in Washington. Now,
yep.
He may not be calling all the shots, but he has a special authority in Washington. And if he ever points his finger at somebody, that's going to be the end of them.
That's the end of them.
Yeah. He has that authority. Don't think he's up there without authority.
No, I know.
He has a very special authority. He may not be the best tactician, but if he ever gets angry, right, then people are going to recognize this guy. Who is this, right? They're going to have a newfound respect for this guy in certain circles.
Right.
But it was a controlled situation.
Yeah.
Biden would not let the conversation go in a certain direction. He kept it. It was almost like watching a Shriners commercial. It was almost just like that.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, how grateful he was. And I'm so grateful. And, all this scripted stuff. But it lets you know something. There's a plan that's underway. That plan will not be interrupted. Everything is on schedule.
Yep.
Right? And a massive death event is on the way.
Wow. What did you just... Like whoa.
A massive death event is on the way.
A massive death event is on the way. I agree with you that we have two forces, that we have the West, what we'll call democracy, whether it's a republic or democracies, and then we have the East, we'll say communism, democracy against communism, as you said to start this broadcast. And that the bigger picture, the broader scope of this whole scenario and controversy is between these two ideologies. And that you said it last week that it looks like Ukraine's the staging ground, and it may be the front line of this battle. And it looks like this battle is inevitable. It's going to happen. And you're saying there's soon. Are you anticipating a mass death event in the first half of 2023? Do you think it's that?
Yes, and not necessarily in Ukraine.
Yeah.
One of the urgent parts about this is they've already made certain decisions. Putin has said this. Putin said, listen, if you move those Patriot missile systems, right, you move those 104s in this area, that we're going to take that as you attacking us, right? And clearly,
right.
That is, you can't take defensive or offensive equipment and put that in the territory of a foreign nation. You can't do that. That's a declaration of war. And so they're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Putin does not recognize Ukraine as somebody else's territory. That's his territory,
right.
Period. And so that's where it's going to be. So now we have a declaration of war that's already been made. That has to be made clear. Putin is going to act because in his mind, he has to save Russia, period. No matter what anybody says, he has to save Russia. But he also knows that if they get this, if they get the Patriot system, the batteries up there, they get those missile batteries up there, they get them in full strength in that area, that could pose a big problem for him, right? That could essentially stagnate his efforts, cause him to go way around, which would mean it would take him years to do what he could do in a month. It would take him years to do otherwise. So is he going to allow them to set up all those batteries there without doing anything? No, he will not. And this is why he's making emergency deployments, right?
Yeah.
Some of the biggest, baddest machines on the earth have been sent into the ocean in the last 72 hours. We're talking the biggest, baddest machines, the worst machines ever. They have been deployed, and one will be deployed here shortly. You don't put those things into the water until you're ready to commit, because the skin of those, it's not like a boat. A boat you can put in the water, bring it back to dry dock, clean it off, you're good to go. Not this one. There's a type of stealth which has a lifespan in the sea, It is 100% active in the sea. The seawater even fuels this thing. So you're looking at a new, not space age stuff, not UFO. We're not talking about that. But
no.
There are certain machines that use salt water. They use the properties of salt water to cause cavity bubbles for their speeds, and they bolster things. The shell of you're talking trillions of dollars just in the paint that goes around this thing, and it's in the sea. You better believe it houses an arsenal that could destroy the Earth at least 30 times, the whole Earth. So you're looking at hypersonics, sea-based hypersonics, hypersonic torpedoes, right?
Yeah.
For anybody who thinks something can't travel underwater at the speed of sound, they are sadly mistaken. Yes, it can. They can defeat all this resistance of water and everything else. That they have defeated that as of, what was that? That's like 10 years ago. That's older stuff they have done. So it's pretty ingenious, but they have overcome that. So they have things in the sea that can travel faster than jets do. Let's put it that way.
Did we put those in the ocean, or did the Russians put those in the ocean, or both?
The Russians put those in the oceans, because with this stubbornness with the Patriot missile systems, here's the deal: it's one thing to put the Patriot system in the Ukraine, but that's not what they did. They advertised it. When they start advertising things, right? So you're looking at a whole different scenario. When they don't talk about something,
yeah,
right, that's when they are more in defensive mode. When they start advertising, that was a message that went directly to Putin.
Yeah, that was a big message, because you brought Zelensky into Washington. You parade him around like a war hero, and then you let him speak before the joint session of Congress, standing ovations and medals, and put him on Time Magazine's Man of the Year. That is really flaunting it in Putin's face.
As provocation.
And that,
they teaches we're not supposed to provoke our
enemy. That's arrogance.
We don't provoke our enemy.
No.
God never told us to provoke Satan. He never told us to provoke a demon. He never told us to provoke these things. We have power to overcome them, but he told us don't enter into that provocation thing. That's not of him. And so what they're doing, what the U.S. is doing, and Western powers is they're provoking Putin to react, right? But I'm telling you right now, because of pride, they can't see. Now, they've been warned, Pascal, they've been warned from the inside by some of the most tactful minds in the business. They have been warned, don't do it. Don't go this route. But they went the route anyway. We're talking about the entire Western alliance has been warned. Don't go that route.
But they did it anyway.
They did so anyway. And so pride is going to cost us this time.
Yeah,
America's been blessed. We've been so blessed. We have not been hit. We had a few terrorist strikes, yes. But we haven't been hit. Where an entire state would vanish. We haven't been hit like that, right? Other countries have gone through quite a bit. We have been incredibly blessed. But I want to take inventory of what we have done as Americans. We have turned our back on the very thing that allowed us to establish America in the first place. And now we're flaunting iniquity like it's no big deal. And now many are starting to say through science, there is no God.
I know.
That's exactly what they're saying. And so there's something coming. And it's just very unfortunate.
So these guys that are
like a decree has been made, it's not going to be reversed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't just keep breaking down the moral standards of a nation. You can't just keep flaunting and arrogantly and then say there is no God. The Bible says the fool has said in his heart there is no God. And I'm afraid that some of the leadership of America has said in their heart there is no God, because you wouldn't do the things they're doing if you truly thought there was a God. If you was doing it, you wouldn't flaunt it. You would keep it to yourself. You surely wouldn't go around boasting and parading around with it. So let me ask you, some of the brightest minds, I mean, look, we got guys sitting, the Joint Chiefs, we've got people in the Pentagon. I mean, we've got some great tacticians, and I sometimes see General Jack Keenan on Fox. Sometimes he comes on, and you can see the guy wanting to scream from the top. He's retired general, and I think he's retired 3-star general, and he just about wants to scream at the top of his lungs that some of the stuff he's seeing is stupidity, that it's that America's doing some stupidity things.
Yes.
Do you feel like that's some of the brass? Do you think that some of the brass in our military right now is just cringing?
Yeah, they are. In fact, they're doing more than cringing. Some of these guys are crying because they understand the consequences of what's coming. You know, when two people get in an argument, right? Two people who love each other, say they get in an argument. When they get in that argument, they do love each other, but in that moment of the argument, they get so angry sometimes that in that moment they do nothing but hate each other. They see each other differently. In that same moment, each one starts to see the flaws of the other. It's almost like they have supernatural knowledge of every flaw the other person ever did, and they will fight back and forth. When they hit that point, fastball, a person cannot come in and make peace with them, right? The situation normally blows up, feelings are hurt, things are said, and then nobody wins, and people walk away thinking they did win, but unfortunately, that's where the damage comes from. When pride is full grown, it does just what that argument will do. When pride is full blown, you cannot convince the other person to consider another way. They're always going to say, I am right.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, it's almost like a spirit is going around in the earth saying, I'm right. And when it pops in people, all that person is concerned about is being right. And when a person is like that, they're no longer teachable. When people are no longer teachable, that's when it's over. That's when it's done. It's all said and done. It's over.
Mike,
and so...
it's so true, and so true what you're saying. Mike, let's shift gears a moment because of something that happened this past week since you were here Thursday. It's kind of weird. I don't say weird. It was very prophetic in my opinion. Sunday night, I got ready to do my show, and I was like, okay, I look at all the current world events, and I'm like, there's really, God, what do you want me to title this show? What do you want to be the main point? He said, earthquake in California. I said, there is no earthquake in California. Matter of fact, I went and looked at the earthquake map. There's not even any, there wasn't much going on in California. He said, you need to talk about the big one. You need to talk about it. You need to talk about what Mike's been telling you about Southern California. You need to talk about Cascadia subduction. You need to talk about San Andreas fault line. You need to talk about California. So I did. I even read an article that was 18 months old about how overdue these fault lines are. And that was the title of the show. Well, Monday night, we had some kind of mysterious wave hit the earth and crack the magnetosphere of the earth, put a huge crack in the earth's magnetosphere, allowing radiation and from the solar winds from the sun to just pour in here on the earth. And so I went and did a live broadcast just spontaneously. It was about 9 o'clock Monday evening. And I said, look, guys, this is what Mike's been saying, that these waves are coming. And they even called it, the media called it a mysterious wave. They weren't sure where it came from. If it came from the sun, they didn't know it was even released. Then I said these words. I said, folks, I'm concerned about an earthquake. I really am. And then that next morning, early Tuesday morning, it was about 2:30 in the morning, a 6.4 earthquake did hit Ferndale, California. It was the strongest earthquake in California in 3 years. 2 people died. Several highways buckled, and several buildings had damage, and 70,000 people lost power. Now, I think that God was trying to speak to me on Sunday night when he said, this is what I want you to talk about. Apparently, the Lord knew what was about going to happen, and he wanted me to have some type of prophetic unction about it. I'm bringing it up to you tonight because that crack in the magnetosphere and this mysterious wave, was it a mysterious wave like from a supernova? Or is this partly what you've been telling us is coming in 2023? Is this the kind of events that are coming?
Yeah, well, think of it this way. That will be a small example of a very, if I could compare what happened, Pascal, I would say that would be maybe one hundredth of the strength of what's actually
coming,
going to enter our heliosphere January 5th. That's 1/100th of the strength of that. And the one that hits January 5th is by no means the biggest. That's more of a that's going to be one we can measure. But think of it this way: if this last one disrupted our magnetosphere enough, where it did increase the radiation levels in certain parts of the earth where they had to divert air traffic, because they did. They closed down certain zones. No aircraft could go in that area. And it did affect the earth because it caused it clearly caused a vibrational ripple that the USGA, they did pick it up. USGS picked it up. You could see the pattern forming when you plot all that data. And it caused a ringing around the planet, right? Which means if that's 1/100th of the power, if we get one that's just simply twice as strong, right? Just twice. Now, twice as strong, it's still not going to be compared to what's coming. But that would cause a multitude of earthquakes. That's what would happen, as a multitude of earthquakes. But so think of it this way. If I compare it this way, that was a BB, right? And what we're about to entertain is a sledgehammer. How about that?
Okay.
So that's about the proper weight. You're looking at the weight of a BB, which is minute, compared to a 10-pound sledgehammer. That's an enormous difference. We actually have this type of phenomena coming in at that type of power potential. No one knows what this will actually. We know that it's going to be a first time of its kind phenomenon.
Okay.
We know that the Earth is not. I don't think that people are properly prepared, even in their imaginations, for what that could cause. And then we do have a weakening of the crust of the Earth. And if the Cosco's plate, if it crumbles just a little, it's going to set loose a chain of events that's going to just scar people's memories for a long time. Because California cannot take a quake. You have, in fact, the Midwest cannot take quakes, not of that magnitude. I know that people think that that's very strong old rock. It is not. That is floating rock. That's not even solid rock. And of course, they found that out because they have better equipment. So basically, America is floating rock. It is not solid down to the core. And when they started, through fracking, they suspected this. But when they started learning more and more about it, there were a bunch of scientists that said, "You got to stop right now." That's what all that fuss was about. Because they said, "You're gonna set this thing loose." And what they were frightened of? The Grand Canyons totally being dislodged through small fractures that were being made in the Earth. Now, if a small fracture can do that, because we sit on a floating continent, then what do you think would happen with one of these major buckling of plate tectonics? We're gonna entertain this. It's coming. This is what's going to take place, and it really takes with great responsibility, with a lot of detail. Pascal, this will have to be charted out. With real satellite imagery, real optics going through the Earth, meaning the actual data. And we're pressing for that. We need the actual data. In other words, we need the real photographs that look about half a mile in the Earth. We need the real data, and we're trying to petition for that so that people understand, number one, America's on a floating continent, that science is so prideful, they won't even admit that they have misjudged quite a few things, right? It's time for people to have facts, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They need facts. They don't need theory. They need facts. And when good people have bad data, that just gets to me. Because I see good people all the time, and they'll have bad data. And then they'll build upon that bad data. Well, of course, the results are not going to quite be there. That burns me up.
Okay, now.
Facts, and we need to, we also had to be responsible, Pascal, because I'll say it again. We have entered into a time where massive death will take place. Each event is going to cause a lot of death.
Now wait, which event are we talking now?
Don't be afraid of death, nobody.
Okay, but which event are we talking now? We're not talking about the mass death event from the war. You're talking about
a different event.
A different event, and this is from the impact from these waves. Our heliosphere, January 5th, is going to get whacked. This thing is going to enter into. Yeah. We don't know what that's going to do to the Earth, do we, on January 5th?
No.
What is the?
It's going to it'll enter into the heliosphere, right? So
okay.
Of course, there's going to be a delay from getting from the heliosphere to the Earth and the Sun. It will cause the Sun to react.
And then we don't know what
we don't know what it's going to do. We know it's enormous.
How long do we have to wait from January 5th? From January 5th, when this hits, till it finally gets to the Sun and then it affects us. How much time will there be between the initial January 5th? Oh, okay. We got a day. So, really, and we're going to know something within 24 to 48 hours of this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. We'll know exactly. Now, there have been events in the past where things have happened and it was benign, right? The sun just kind of absorbed it. We
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to do. This is very exotic matter. This is not like, something people are
Is this
familiar
from
with
an
that they have actually
explosion
measured.
somewhere? Is this from a supernova or some kind of massive
They
explosion?
don't think so. It's not like a quasar. It's not like a magnetar. It's not like some superburst in a galaxy or something like that. This is very exotic and strange. In fact, some of the spectrographs came back on this thing. The data is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. In other words, nobody's really prepared to deal with this. They've only seen something similar to this, which caused very negative effects on the global populace about 4 months after it happened. They didn't really tell anybody either, because how do you tell somebody that? People have health problems to this very day because of something that happened back in 1982, and they don't really talk about it. It came from out in space. It affected quite a few people on the Earth. They know what the symptoms are and what it has actually done, but no one dares speak about it. It's a real gag order on things like that. So we have another one coming in, right? But we also have things behind it. This is important. This would be one of the elements that makes up part of the bigger ones. Some of these bands that are coming in are flat and they are tall and they are super wide. That they're just spreading all over the place, right? They are emanating from one location. One location.
Planet
They're not
X?
coming from 2 or 3 locations. They're coming from one location.
Planet
One
X?
location, and it's pulsing out some stuff right now. I mean, it's pulsing out some stuff. And so it's only, that gives us a good idea that we're in the season of real change, because this thing now they're picking up continual pulses. Something is very different. And
So,
mind you, in any binary system, the secondary star, as it gets closer, it speeds up, right? It'll double it. It's almost like it doubles its speed every 72 hours. It's going to double its speed, right? Then exponentially get faster. A lot of people may not see it. They will see a very odd constellation. They're going to see a different constellation. They're going
okay.
to see something they don't want to see.
So this thing is tied to Planet X or the binary system that's coming.
Yeah, certainly tied to something that's tied to our solar system, and it's pulsing now. It's actually sending matter in our direction. Well, that means we're right there in the season of that matter exchange between the 2 stars, which means the sun, when that matter exchange takes place, all the photons are going to be redirected to the other star. That's going to be darkness on the Earth. Or we're going to have a red planet on the Earth. Everything will look red.
Yeah, because it's changed the atmosphere. It changes because the photons. You're saying
when photons are redirected?
Yeah.
Infrared light, right? Infrared light being in the frequency it's still going to emit to Earth, right? Which means everything will be red, everything will be hot. It's going to look like that. It could look like that for several days. It could look like that for 27 days. It could look like that for 60 days, right? It depends on how long it takes for this matter exchange of the 2 stars to actually happen, right?
Are we going to see this exchange?
Hopefully we're not in the way of that exchange, because I don't see it surviving. I don't see anything surviving if they're in the way of that proton exchange.
Are we going to experience this redness in 2023? Is this event going to happen?
Yeah, pass balls like this because of its proximity, it could very well take place at any time in 2023. But I'll tell you this, when it happens, right?
Yeah.
That's when the real bad stuff will also begin to happen shortly right after that. Not before it, right after that. The super bad stuff. Now, super bad stuff would mean the pressure changes in the Earth enough to cause the water to boil off. Water can boil off the Earth when the Earth temperature is only 70 degrees. All you need is a pressure change. And if we have something affecting the atmospheres, that's precisely what will happen. That means we won't be able to breathe. No one will be able to breathe on the coastlines. That means people will have to go into rocks and caves or anywhere in the Earth just so they can breathe and escape some of the hostile gases and all this other stuff that'll be floating in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Do you see then to be this this hostile environment, which you called an ash environment at one point. Is that kind of when that goes into play? You know, 'cause here's my thing. Low pressure systems create massive storms. Okay. Which we're right now, this storm over America. I remember a year ago you told us, watch a storm. There'll be a storms that will completely cover the entire nation.
Yep.
And that's what we're dealing with right now. We've never seen anything like this, really. They're calling it a cyclone bomb. But literally, this storm is reaching from one coast to the other and from north to the south. This is incredible. Is this because low pressure systems are going to get so enormous it has to affect weather conditions?
Yeah, they will, because we have a 2% change in our atmosphere, right?
Wow.
With that 2% change, it increases the potential of storms. The evaporation of the water is part of that change in the atmosphere, which means the clouds are going to be more numerous, which means the atmosphere is going to have more potential to hold that moisture and then drop it on everything. So everything is about to get supersized, right? That's only one part of it. That's one little piece. It'll get pretty bad, though, because even that will be doubled. So imagine a storm, Pastor Paul, right? Imagine a storm, like a bad thunderstorm with supercells all in it that spans from Texas all the way up to Canada, right?
Yeah.
Say it that way. I mean, we're talking about full of tornadoes all the way up from Texas, all the way
to Canada,
right? That's what we're looking at. So they already have. Remember, we talked about the new names for some of the storms?
Yep.
Like hypercanes.
Yep.
Hypercane is on the list.
Yeah.
So people don't get ready for this. The reason it's on the list is because they have determined, they've already calculated wind speeds. This year, they've recorded wind speeds that are unbelievable. I'm not even going to utter them because they sound unbelievable. Though we've talked about them before here on air. We've talked about them before.
Yep.
But it actually reached those sustained wind speeds, right? So I'll tell you what, in 2023, some of the real preparations are not only war. War is just part of it, right? Famine is going to be a big deal. Loss of animals and food and foliage is going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big deal. The water, we're still going to have a type of dryness take place due to the induction of certain types of radiation, plus flooding. The water event, I suspect, will happen this year. This year will be the water event, I suspect. Now, that could be totally wrong. It's just that everything is pointing towards that.
Right.
And what the water event is, that's a rise in the ocean levels without an earthquake, without
a tsunami.
Anything slamming into it. We'll probably have a big water event. We'll also have a water event caused by something slamming into the sea. That time is
That's coming. That's coming.
That's going to be bad. We're going to see a lot of that. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, folks, those of you who saw the webinar we did, Mike really goes into detail in this and shows you this with a map, which is an extraordinary map, and talks about these water events, talks about a water event that's going to come, but talks about a lot of things with these volatile areas of volcanism, the earth pulling apart, magma rising to the surface, a lot of different things. It's an extraordinary webinar. That I highly recommend you get a copy. You can order the DVD on it. They're being produced right now. And so as soon as they get in, we're going to be shipping those to folks. So you can order your DVD of that webinar. And I highly recommend you get it. Not just only because of Mike's presentation, but the other guys as well. It's just extraordinary all the way through it. But Mike shows you a map that the public has never seen, only been seen on our webinar. And I think that when you see that and you learn that and you hear the presentation, you hear Mike's explanation, that's why I'm staying on top of this story more than I have anything else. I mean, I'm watching closely this with the war being staged. I saw it this week, Mike. I saw what you said Thursday, literally being staged in front of our eyes. And I'm still not sure the American populace notices it or understands it.
I don't think they do.
They're going to wake up one day. There's going to be an event, as you've said earlier tonight, a death event.
Early in the morning.
A death event that's going to shock the world. Is that about to happen?
Yeah. You know what, Pastor Paul, I think that early one morning, people are going to wake up. People are going to notice that everybody's trying to find a computer, a phone, or something to look at, and they'll be saying, I can't believe it happened. They're going to look at their screens with despair, with disbelief. I think that will open up a very different time for people. And it's painful to see something like that. It's painful because for the most part, we deny everything until it happens.
Yeah.
Then when it happens, it brings on a new horizon. But you know what? Wisdom comes into this part. With all that, all of us being human, with all that we did not believe, we should learn by now that we should not invest our time in disbelief of things, rather simply to follow wisdom. You know what, Pastor Paul, the Lord gives you a lot of wisdom. The Lord gives Israel a lot of wisdom. The Lord is giving out wisdom, and if people would just listen for the Lord's voice in that wisdom, with all of what comes, they may see quite a few things, right?
Yep.
But here's my point. There are many who have seen even more things. Even though this is going to be the crescendo of all times, right? There have been people who survived World War I, World War II, right? Vietnam, the Korean War, all these different conflicts, the droughts, right? The dust storms, the financial apocalyptic times in 1920s, the Great Depression. They have survived it. But it was a learning lesson. And in all cases, it brought sincerity back to humanity. Because in every single case after these times, people actually cared about their neighbor again. And every time we get to the point where we could care less about our neighbor, it guarantees something in the world will happen. This time, though, all the ministers are speaking the same thing. This has never happened before. It has never happened like this before. Regardless of people's theology or what they believe in, they're all talking about Revelation.
Yeah.
Even some of the ones who refuse to talk about Revelation cannot ignore. They're trying to give this happy message. And the people in the pews, I saw something recently. Somebody was trying to give a happy message, and the people in the pews all had Grinch frowns on their face. Like, why is he talking about that?
Yeah.
And we can clearly see the tension building and the iniquity building. And so people are starting to wake up.
Yep.
But this is intended. This is part. Revelation to an unbeliever is scary. But to a believer, Revelation is a book of deliverance, of ultimate deliverance. It is not a book where all the believers get enslaved. That's Hollywood drama stuff. A Christian starts out in tribulation. They do. It's called their life. And the tribulation is indeed the life of a Christian. If your life has not been tribulation, then you've been on the wrong side. That period.
Right.
That's the way it works. Because Jesus made that clear. So people shouldn't be frightened of that. Plus, this is those things that we can't give up, that we keep stumbling over. I guarantee you these times that are coming up are going to help us get rid of everything we stumbled over. Because everything false that we ever believed in, the Lord will remove it from us. He's cleaning us up for the final deliverance. This is when he presents us to himself. But I do believe this. He's cleaning us up. I've searched history. I've been through all history I could ever find. Never in a time have I seen the Lord present the same issue to all people. I've never seen that, except the great flood.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is the Lord is exposing. All this iniquity that people see upon the earth, he's allowing all that to happen for people to indulge in their own iniquities. He does this right before he shows it's absolutely right before the penalty of their iniquity comes. They are engaged in it. When the penalty comes, they'll say, oh, that's terrible. See, that's how we learn.
Yep.
We don't give up anything until it bites us. When it bites us, we'll tell somebody else, don't ever touch that because that hurts, right?
Yep.
If it does not bite us, we'll warn no one, right?
Yep.
All this iniquity and everything else rising in the earth, it's almost clear what the Lord is doing. He's about to deliver his children. And so he's bringing everybody through this process. The whole world's involved, not just one region, all regions. The whole world's involved. But what makes it different now than ever before is you have people, not necessarily people who never heard of Christ. You actually have people that say, don't talk to me about Christ. See, that didn't happen like that before.
No.
You had people out there that said, well, I know about Christ, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. But now you hear people rejecting him. Mm-hmm. They already heard the message, and that's the key. They already heard the message. They already heard the message. And in the Bible, it says the gospel of the kingdom must be preached throughout all the earth, not accepted. It never said it had to be accepted. It said it had to be preached for
exactly.
witness. And people are now in that mode of rejection because A witness can be out there for so long, and then when the rejection comes, what does God do every single time? He withdraws that witness, and that's exactly what we see. Even the well, I can't go any further, but we see things that have never happened before, and all we have to do is step back. If we can step out of bias, not be for or against anything in the world, but simply stand in the kingdom, we start to see a truth. The same truth Jesus Christ preached this entire time. You begin to see it so clearly. But it really takes a lot of work, because it's almost like you have to betray the world. And that's not so easy to do, just in case people think they can just snap their fingers and walk out of the world. No, you can't. Because a lot of our habits, attitudes, support, and everything else is found in the world.
We're in the world.
The Lord is breaking us loose.
Yeah, we're in the world, Jesus said, but we're not of the world. Okay, but we still are in it, but we're not of it. But we still live in it. So we just serve a higher power. We serve a Savior who's on our side. And that, folks, never lose focus of that. Don't be afraid. Remember what Moses said when they saw the Red Sea, and they said, how are we going to get across it? And we can see Pharaoh coming, and Moses said, stand still. Fear not. He said, fear not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. So that's exactly what we have to do, is fear not. Stand still and watch. You're going to see the salvation of the Lord. Mike, appreciate tonight. Next Thursday night, it's going to be almost the end of the year. It's going to be the 29th of December. We're going to have to take a reflection of this year and a focus on the future. And what are we going to? What's going to happen between now and next week?
We're going to be preparing. That's what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are going to start preparing. Our next conversation, people may be nervous in the service during that time. In other words, some truth may come forward that is just a, somewhat like, what do people call it? An omen, some marker is going to come forward. A lot of people will begin to prepare. One of the most notable things of Pastor Paul, some of these celestial happenings, will no longer have to chart out. People will see it with their own eyes. They're about to experience what they thought they never would. Right?
That's going to make a believer. That's going to make a believer out of some of us. That's right.
The fires are coming. They are coming. And there's nothing anybody can do about that except for our Father.
Amen. Mike, I appreciate you coming in tonight. This has been a powerful broadcast. Great insight, great information, and great preaching. I appreciate it so much.
Well, God bless you, Pastor Paul. Hopefully everybody can get over the volume issue.
They will when I get back in the studio. It's not your fault. It's mine. I'm on the road. It's a little difficult, but.
Well, you're not near water, are you?
Don't say it. Don't ask me. Don't ask me to look out my window. Don't even ask me to look out my window. Do you want to hear the roar?
You're near water?
Do you want to hear the roar of the... hang on a second, everybody. I'll just step out on this balcony. You will hear the roar of the ocean. I'm in the building in South Carolina. Okay, I'll try to get back to the water tomorrow. Okay?
Oh my. Okay.
All right, I promise you, I'm on the road tomorrow. Okay, I'll get inland. I'll go inland.
Oh, Pastor, God bless you, brother.
Okay, all right. God bless. All right. I know I drive Mike crazy. I break the rules a lot. I think he knew. Something tells me he's got some. I think he knows where I'm at most of the time. Anyway, guys. This is it. I'm serious. We need to get right with God tonight. Mike has been very honest with us. I mean, he really explained this whole situation with Russia and the United States and the world, Heidi. Mm-hmm. It's serious.